First of all, let me say good afternoon to members of the media. We scheduled this press conference for today, even though it was postponed from yesterday. We postponed it from yesterday because we were asked by the Permanent Secretary, because we hadn't spoken to the Minister yesterday after we had the divisional meeting up at HQ1 to talk to the bus operating allied workers. And I think those of you who would have seen a statement from the Department of Communications and Information, and it came, I think, from the Cabinet Office yesterday evening, concerning an update from their point of view as to what had transpired in the meeting. What I can say to you yesterday, after talking to the bus operating allied workers about the council runs and about the double time for time and a half, they are very concerned about a number of issues. One of the issues that they were very concerned about was, is it going, the double time for time and a half, is it going across the hill of government? And of course we told them we're not aware of that. We put the suggestion on the table to the Minister 3 weeks ago, so I think it's just right now the Department of Public Transportation that's going to affect the double time for time and a half. So that was very concerning to them. The other things that I think they raised very concerned about was the whole thing about the Tourism Authority and how it would appear that they are getting taxpayers' money, people are getting bonuses and those sort of things, and the question, why should we have to do double time for time and a half, recognizing that they had given up 19 months of furlough days. They had also been on a wage freeze since 2011. So they have done some things on behalf of the country to sacrifice. And let me just remind the general public and Bermuda right now that in 2011, for 6 months in 2011, from July 1st to December 31st, 2011, the BIU, government workers work overtime for straight time. And we saved the government some $3.5 to $4 million. And the overtime numbers reflect that. So when you see the statement from, I guess, the Cabinet Office and the Director yesterday, saying that we have unprecedented sick leave or unprecedented absenteeism related to long-term sickness, related to vacation leave and those sort of things, you have to ask yourself the question, why is it that it seems like just in 2015 we have this problem? This problem has existed for quite a while now. I can tell you I've been president for 9 years, and every year for at least the last 6 years, Dan Simmons has called me around anywhere between November, December, telling me that he's out of money, and he don't have any money left. And the reason why I know what he's saying is true is because last year during the budget reduction group talks, we actually got a breakdown of all the overtime that's being paid for all the unions. And that crystallized for me, as the president of the BIU, why Mr. Simmons has the problem that he has. Out of all the departments that has an overtime budget, DPT had the least amount of overtime allotted to them budget for overtime. Their budget is $150,000, or was $150,000, and this number can be verified. I can share that with you. I can tell you that the next one to them, I think, is the Department of Parks, which probably has a budget of about, I think it's $183,000. And all the other departments has a budget bigger than, DPT, as I said a moment ago. All other departments had an overall budget of $1.9 million, but that's made up of probably a lot of small areas. But the main thing is that we have a situation in front of us at present that's very concerning, so much so we reached out to the minister when we were having these council runs, very concerned about how we can get it sorted out. And it certainly doesn't help when, the leadership or the BIU has to go to its members to ask them to give up a concession in the CBA when you heard an announcement last week, Wednesday, in the House of Assembly that the government overspent our budget by $23 million. That's not very pleasant when I'm going to go as the leader of the BIU to try to get my members to work double time for time and a half. And I know certain members of the public are going to take pot shots at us because they, what's the problem? You're still getting premium time. But I think that I want the country to at least pay attention to exactly what's taking place here. I think the concerns that the members at DPT have are legitimate concerns in respect to this is going across the hill of government. And if so, why not? And even though I put the suggestion out there that maybe we can have a conversation with the operators about working double time for time and a half, I made it crystal clear to the minister, that's still got to be approved by the membership. I've said it on at least 4 different occasions in 4 different forums. I know also on at least 3 different talk shows saying that The overtime for double time for time and a half would have to be approved by the membership. So having said that, the membership yesterday, and even though I sense, the concerns about giving up, recognizing that it wasn't going across the whole of government, I decided as the leader that I wouldn't put it to them about double time for overtime. I withdrew it. Since I put it on the table first to the minister, I withdrew it. Even though he conceded and gave the time and a half for double time, I took it off the table yesterday and didn't allow the membership to vote on it. So if the public wants to hold me at ransom for that, they can please themselves. But I felt that instead of dividing my membership, I saw the need for me as the leader to take that off the table and not have a vote on double time for time and a half, recognizing that it's not going across the whole of government. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you might have. But before, let me just add something to that. As I said to you a moment ago, DPT's overtime budget is $150,000 for fiscal period 2014-2015. That finishes at the end of this month. I can tell you by November 27, 2014, which is 8 months into the government's fiscal year, DPT spent $1.5 million in overtime. So you have to ask yourself the question, why all of a sudden that now we're going to have council runs later on in February? I think that's what that statement says. They said last month, so I'm assuming it was February, that they now decided that they're not going to be paying any more overtime. Yet, in November, they had spent about $1.3 million or so over the overtime budget. So why we got another 2 months to finish this fiscal period? Why not go ahead and continue to honor what the CBA says, that if somebody is on a day off or rest day and they're going to come in to work, they'll be paid at double time? Why not just go ahead and continue to do that? I'm not sure how much that cost would work out for the government at the end of the year, but at the risk of, interrupts in service levels and having runs being canceled because we have people out on long-term sickness, at least 8 to 10 people out on long-term sickness, and we have other people on vacation, that's at least somewhere between 10%, almost 10% of the workforce when we look at the operators, because there's about 140 operators. So if you got 14 people off the job, you're talking about 10% of your workforce is out of the workplace, trying to basically accommodate a 19.5 to 20-hour schedule every day. And I can tell you, most of those rosters, even though we work 7.5 hours, most of those rosters run from at least 40.5 hours to 51 hours in time. None of them rosters are scheduled 35 hours, not one of them. I've done them all, none of them. So if you have a short day today, chances are you're going to have 2 or 3 long days after that day. So if you look at all the times that they spend on the job as it relates to hours of work, none of my members right now spends 37.5 hours on the job. It's 37.5 hours and more, plus.
Mr. President, are they getting overtime canceled?
Well, let's just be clear. Anytime an operator is, let's just say he's working his regular roster, and if he has to work past his regular knock-off time, he gets time and a half for that. So that's not changed. What has changed, or what we was trying to fix, is that, once we have the long-term sickness continue, and once we have people who are off on vacation or sick today, and the management team needs to call somebody into work, you're now calling that person on the day off or the rest day. Based on that, it still has to be, according to the CBA, has to be a double time. So there's still a time and a half element in there, but that's for me to continue on finishing my work I have already started for the day, and that's what the CBA calls for.
And you, as the president, would advocate double time?
Well, I would advocate that if the minister wants my members to come in on the day off or the rest day, then they should be paid the double time rate.
Looking at the blogs today, some of the bloggers had put that a lot of the members abuse the sick pay, the sick days, and abuse some of the benefits that they have.
Well, all I would say, I think that we've asked, I don't know how long it's been now, Brother Glenn sits on the negotiating team along with Sister Kathy and Brother Sumner of recent, but I can go as far back as 10 years ago. We've been asking management for a quarterly sick leave printout, so we can sit down every quarter and have a conversation with those individuals who we think are abusing sick leave. But I think we should be clear, is that, according to what the agreement says, is I have a right to have off sick. And if you believe that I'm abusing that sick time between the union and the employer, they must sit down and have a conversation with that individual about the possible abuse of sick leave. And once that happens, if it continues, then, you'll be required to bring in a doc certificate in the case of future sickness. But I think that it's incumbent upon the employer and the union to sit down and deal with those individuals that may be possibly only abusing sick time.
Would you agree that if one is not sick, you just want a day off, you're going to call in sick, and get abuse?
Well,
You have a right.
yeah, but let's just be clear, right? You know, just because I pick up the phone and I tell you that I'm not coming to work today, we can't just assume that they're not sick. We can't assume that. You know, certainly I've made my position crystal clear as the president of the BIU that if you pick up the phone and call in sick today, I don't expect for you to be on the golf course. I don't expect to see you driving around town. You should be home in your house unless you're going to the doctor and your appointment was for a certain time. Then in a reasonable period of time, you should be back at home. But you shouldn't be have a doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're still in town, you know, driving around and walking around. I will not condone that as the president of the BIU. Will not condone it.
So how many sick days do most drivers get?
Well, it depends on your years of service. You know, it goes from, you know, just so we don't guess. We have a copy of the CBA right here, and I think it simply says schedule number 3, sick leave. You can get anywhere between 5 weeks full pay, which is 25 days, up to 14 weeks pay, which is 70 days. So if you've been working for the Bermuda government for over 16 years, you're entitled to 14 weeks full pay, which is 70 days. 70 days. So as a court entitlement, I don't think we have, you know, I will go to limb here and say I don't think any operator that has over 16 years service at DPT takes off 70 sick days a year. No, you know, is there a question as to whether or not somebody's taking off 20 or 30 or whatever that we need to have a conversation with? Absolutely. We can sit down and have that conversation with there's a handful of people that we think is on possible abuse of sick leave. But this is a negotiated benefit, and this negotiated benefit, as we tell our members, is a benefit that was negotiated on your behalf, and please don't take it for granted.
Does it just apply to bus drivers, or does it apply to all government workers?
It applies to all government workers, and I can tell you that most of the BIU's collective bargaining agreements have similar benefits in them. They probably don't have as many as 70 days. They probably range from 30 days, probably up to 50 or 60 days on other agreements based on your years of service.
So then do workers worry that the next time it comes around to renew the agreement, the government is going to be more hard-nosed to switch in the benefits that are on offer?
Switching the benefits? How so?
You know, if they're saying that if they're giving so many sick days and they feel that they can't afford to pay double time, are they going to try and negotiate a different schedule of benefits next time the CBA comes out as well?
Well, I can't predict what the government is going to do, you know, in the future, but that, well, that certainly shouldn't be just the case for 2015. That should have been the case all along, and whether that was 2015 or 2010 or 2000. If the government felt that there were people that was abusing sick leave, then they can come to the table with a proposal to change it. Where, if you look at the Employment Act, I think the minimum somebody can be off is 8 days. And that is a benefit that was, or, you know, an agreement, meaning that it allows the employer to set some basic standards as it relates to sick leave. So you can have a bottom, which is 8 days, up to, if you got a negotiated agreement, you could probably get some better sick leave benefits.
And you also have taken us on the ticket and you went to the various places about the sick leave.
Yeah. And, you know, just to be clear that we've had conversations with our members about work ethic, talking about sick leave, talking about people making their time, people doing their work. So, you know, we're trying to be proactive and, you know, our members getting it. I'm not that naive. No, some of them still need to understand exactly what we're trying to say to them and the reason why we're trying to say it. Because we're not taking these kind of things for granted. I think the current leadership, the current membership, you know, meaning the entire BIU membership and the executives are responsible for this organization. We are the current caretakers. And you can't say just because the BIU president is the president. No, we are all responsible for, you know, the collective bargaining agreements that we negotiate and the organization as a whole, as what has been built for us, so we can make sure that it's here for our children and our children's children. We can't simply just take things for granted.